So now let's look at a bunch of models about action research. This is a very student-centered model. I'm thinking about my kids. I've created this great classroom, but I see that there may be some problems going on there still that I want to fix, right? So I have this hypothesis that, some of these kids are, grouping together, and there's this, negative cliques forming, and they're starting to bully each other. And so I'm going to look at the literature on this, and yeah, fourth grade kids sometimes do that, and I'll look at all the things, and I'll come up with maybe a different kind of a hypothesis based on all of this new information. And all of that may just very well change my question. Remember in the prior class we talked about radical neuroconstructivism. It's the way that we interact with our world has changed each time. Even if we're having the same experience, we're actually interpreting it different because we already had that experience once before, right? So the more ways we take in information, now we're going to look at our research question differently because we've had a lot of different literature. So this is what's going to happen during your literature review. You're going to begin to rethink your question maybe in a different way, right? So then we're going to revisit that question and look at our context again and maybe formulate an even better question. We're going to bounce this around with our peers and get some feedback, and then we're going to have this interaction in our class, and we're going to see if that fixes anything. And the likelihood is, because of the great nature of teaching, it just goes on. Now we'll have a new kind of a question, a new kind of a problem, and this will continually be cyclical, okay? Another model, as Bond puts it, it's pretty much you have a plan, you put that plan into action. Even the act of putting it into action might make you change your plan, but then you're going to get some results from that intervention you did with a kid, right? I plan to read out loud to the kids for 20 minutes a day. You put that into action, but then you realize that maybe it's better if they read to themselves instead of you read to them, and so maybe you're changing your ideas here. Then you get some results. Oh, it does seem like they're reading more for pleasure. But then you have to rethink this. And this is a general, again, cyclical process, even though Bond chose to make it with little squares. And I put his in here, his model in here. There's thousands of them, but I put his because it's one of the few that doesn't try to go in a circle. Because most of the models will basically say, you have a plan. Let's put our plan into action. Let's observe what happens. Let's think about what happened. Let's reflect on that. And then let's have a new plan. And let's put that into action and then see what happens. Let's observe. Let's reflect on that, and then we have a new plan. So this is cyclical. The idea of action research is that this is an incredibly ongoing, iterative process that never has an end because each of our problems just becomes different and more sophisticated. And that's the art of teaching, basically, right? Others, identify the problem, they develop their plan, they collect the data, they analyze, they report these things, and then they adjust and then they begin again. So this describes the same cyclical process, but sort of in an ongoing way here. Other models are very, very similar. The biggest difference here is that the arrows go in the different directions. So you identify a problem, you plan the research, you collect the data, you analyze, you reflect, you share this, you take action, and then you have a new problem. That's the way it goes, right? But these four key stages of planning, acting, observing, and reflecting are basically the classic steps of action research, right? So we plan, we implement or act, we observe what happens, we reflect on this, and then we start again. We plan, we implement, we observe, we reflect, right? Plan, act, observe, reflect. All of this is basically an ongoing process, right? Probably one of the most seminal articles ever written on this was done by chemist McTaggart in '88. Here's a concrete explanation here of, this is my plan, this is the background information I had, this is the action I put into place, I observe what happened with the kids, I think about how they reacted to that particular teaching, and then I've revised my plan and now I have a new one. So his is kind of a little bit different, but it was one of the first to get out there, right? Same thing here, identify problems, reconnaissance, fact-finding and analysis. This is basically what we're calling the literature review. You make a plan about what you're going to do, you implement it and observe what happens here, and then you think about what happened there. And all along the way, we have basically adjustments to our own teaching practice based on the results that we have at each of these different stages. And that's the real beauty of teaching, is that we do this every single day for 20, 30 kids in our class over and over, and they're almost unique to the individual kid. We'll have a global plan, but some of the kids, we're going to need to adjust this and do things slightly differently based on the entire dynamics of the class. And that is part of the beauty of teaching and one of the reasons it's so hard to document our practice.